Yeah, there it is. Welcome to the Reset. I am your host, Andre Clay. And on tonight's show, we have for you a very special show, Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, and what Black America needs to know about them. Again, Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, and what Black America needs to know about them. Tonight's show will be a special show where you will be able to comment. Please feel free to chime in. Tonight's show will be aired on Facebook and YouTube. Please feel free to join us and tuning in. And with that, let us begin. How many of you out there know about Project 2025? How many of you know about the Heritage Foundation? Well, tonight we will be learning about them both, what they are, who is behind them, and how conservatives plan to usher in Jim Crow 2.0. And joining me tonight, I have with me two gentlemen. Give me just a second here, make sure my screen is there. There we go. We have one of the guests with me, Tommy. And hold on a second, make sure. There we go. There we go. There we go. We got Ryan in the house. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Good.
Doing good.
Doing well.
All right. All right. Tonight, guys, we're going to talk about our Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. Probably what inspired me to do this show was that I noticed over the last few months when I first learned about them that a lot of our people are not aware of it, just not aware. We've been seeing issues in Florida with the attacks on CRT, DEI, not just in Florida, but across the country in various conservative states. We've seen how the Supreme Court has pulled back affirmative action protections and everything for minorities and Black folks. And tonight, I really wanted to have an open discussion with you guys. You guys are familiar with both the Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. And so to get things kicked off, let me start here. Okay, before we get started, first guest, Tommy, if you would, please introduce yourself to the public. Let them know who you are, where you resided, and any other information you believe will be pertinent to tonight's discussion.
Yeah, how y'all doing? Thank you for having me on the show, by the way. I really appreciate this opportunity. My name is Tommy Ariano. I'm an Afro-Latino. I live here in El Paso, Texas. I am very proud of my Mexican heritage as well as my Black heritage, which is why it is one of my proponents to make sure that education, historical education in the education system is equitous. It has equality and inclusion behind it for so long, just like you were talking about. These topics that we're going to be talking about today, they totally disregard our communities and they don't consider us in their implementation. So my biggest thing and my movement that I'm pushing is, making sure that Black history is regarded as American history, and hopefully that can expand into Latino history, Chinese history, because these are the people who built the country that we live in. So educator, activist, and just happy to be here.
Very good. Very good, my man. All right, Ryan, if you will, sir, please introduce yourself to the public and let us know who you are, what you're about, where you're at, and what you're doing.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me on the show this evening. My name is Ryan Adams. I'm a historian, amateur historian, but a historian nonetheless. And I host a podcast called Beware the Day that can be heard weekly on the Black El Paso Voice platform. You can find my podcast on Facebook at Beware the Day. I also have a YouTube channel, which is also entitled Beware the Day. And you can also find my podcasts on all the major podcast platforms such as Spotify and iHeart and others. I'm a veteran, and I'm a 30-plus year resident of El Paso.
All right. Beware the Day. I got a chance to check you out myself. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure you do as well. It's a lot to learn. My brother got a wealth of information and knowledge for us all, so be sure to chime in. Well, gentlemen, tonight's discussion, I kind of want to start here with Project 2025. Like I said, I know a lot of our people are not abreast about what this is. And so real briefly, let me start just giving a brief overall intro about what this is all about. Now, Project 2025, people, is a collection of policy proposals to reshape the federal government at an unprecedented scale in the event of a Republican victory in the 2024 U.S. presidential election. The key points about the Project 2025 are: it was established in 2022 by a coalition of over 80 conservative organizations led by the Heritage Foundation to prepare for a potential Republican administration in 2025. The project seeks to recruit tens of thousands of conservatives to replace existing federal civil service workers, which Republicans characterize as the deep state, in order to further the objectives of the next Republican president. The plan proposes sweeping changes across the government, including slashing Department of Justice funding, dismantling the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, gutting environmental and climate change regulations, and eliminating the Departments of Education and Commerce. Critics argue that if implemented, Project 2025 would cement the U.S. as a right-wing authoritarian state. Now, specific policy proposals include slashing funding for the U.S. Department of Justice and dismantling the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, as I noted above, gutting environmental and climate change regulations to favor fossil fuel production, eliminating the cabinet-level departments of Education and Commerce, immediately invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807 to deploy the military for domestic law enforcement purposes, conducting the largest domestic deportation operation in history to remove undocumented immigrants. Next, deputizing local police and sheriffs to assist with the large-scale deportation operation. And lastly on this list, implementing a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency to quote-unquote deconstruct the administrative state within the first 180 days of the administration. Now, gentlemen, starting with you, Ryan, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about these proposals, and how likely do you believe they are to be able to come to fruition if Trump is elected?
Well, I think it's highly likely because you have to go back to 1979. The Heritage Foundation did something very similar prior to the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. It was called the Mandate for Leadership, and it was published in January of 1981, which is the same month that Ronald Reagan was sworn into the office of president.
Okay.
Now, by the end of that year, 60% of its recommendations had become policy in what we now know as the Reagan Agenda or Reaganomics.
Right.
And Reagan was on his way to ending stagflation, reviving American confidence and prosperity, and winning the Cold War. Those were the highlights, but the lowlights were the pain and suffering that were inflicted on people that looked like you and I. Yeah. The so-called nonsense of trickle-down economics was wrapped in this mandate for leadership. The theory that, you know, if you slash the taxes of the wealthiest individuals, that money will be reinvested to create jobs. Utter nonsense.
Yeah.
And Reagan, in my opinion, was one of the worst presidents we've ever had. I know he's an icon of the conservative, of these fools that call themselves conservatives out here. He's on their Mount Rushmore, but he's not on mine.
Yeah. So
this has been done before. They are running the same play that they ran in 1981, but it's more sinister. It is more diabolical. They want to give the president absolute power. You know, what they fail to understand is that there are three branches of government. You have the judiciary, you have the legislative, and you have the executive branch. You have a system of checks and balances. No one branch would be more powerful than the other. And that's the way it's set up today. This is absolutely diabolical. And if Trump is elected, this could come to fruition. The Constitution does not prohibit anyone who's been convicted of a felony from running for president or let alone being elected. Right. You only have to be 35 and a citizen of the United States, because, you know, the founding fathers, they kind of gave us the benefit of the doubt and said, who would be so foolish as to run for president after been convicted of a felony? And who would be so foolish to vote for someone who has been convicted of a felony? So they just didn't give it a second thought. I said, no, we don't need to put that in there. But we are in uncharted waters. We are in dangerous waters. And we need to do everything in our power to make sure that this Project 2025 is buried and never sees the light of day in this country.
I heard that.
But
all right.
The short answer to your question is yes. It is highly likely that it will be implemented if the wrong person is elected in November.
Very good. All right. Well, Tommy, same thing with you, man. I want to know from you, same questions. Hold on, let me make sure they're here because this screen keeps popping up. Okay. What are your thoughts about these proposals and how likely are they to come to fruition if Trump is elected? And also, what are some of the ways in which these proposals are being executed in your state? And what do citizens think about them?
Well, I'm going to completely agree with Ryan. I think the only way to describe it is diabolical. This is, you know, the villain of villains in comic book lore that you see, and this is real life that we're living. The only thing that I don't agree with is it's more sinister than it was before, because I just feel like this is just the next phase of what happened before. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just Reaganomics that demolished our communities. It was the war on drugs. Because the war on drugs was just the war on Black and brown people. That's all it was. That created this prison industrial system that we have now. And now that they know that we're hit to this prison industrial system, they're just trying to move to monitored living at home. Oh, well, we're trying to move people out of these prisons and we want to, you know, put them back in the community. But all they're doing is slapping an ankle bracelet and monitoring what they do, everything, how they move out in the open. Mm-hmm. Basically, that you're still treating us like animals. We're bred in captivity now. That's all that is. They're just watching us. They're putting us on wildlife reserves and putting tracking beacons so they can see what we're doing. And I know it sounds very conspiracy theorist the way I'm putting it, use the verbiage that I'm using, but that's exactly what it is. And as far as how likely I think it is to happen, it's already happening. I mean, they're already laying the framework to make the larger scale operation possible, to make the larger operation, I guess, run more smoothly. Already, I go to UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso. Already this year, legislation was passed last year. Already this year, it was implemented to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion offices inside of higher education, places, colleges, institutions, things like that. So all of that's been removed. It's illegal. Ryan and I spoke on a panel. That panel, got virtually no promotion, virtually no turnout, because the school's hands, and I say this very lightly, the school's hands were tied because they couldn't work in conjunction with that, because it was against the law to allow us to have a platform that they were tied to. It was against the law. There was people there that helped us set that up that didn't even have a job description anymore. They didn't even have a job title.
Wow.
They don't have work anymore. They're working there, but they're floating. They're in uncertainty.
Right.
They've been trying to pass what is it that SB4, and where they can just basically making it legal to racially profile people for the terms of deportation. And it won't stop with brown people. It won't stop with immigrants from Venezuela or from Mexico or anything. It's not going to stop there. It's going to go to us. I mean, stop and frisk literally exists in New York.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, this is Texas. We live in a border city. I can walk to the border from my house. Mexico is right here every single day. I cannot scroll through social media without seeing the horrors of these people's desperation and the military action being taken away from people. Remember, we destabilized these governments. We did this. By we, I say the United States. They did that. The same way that Reaganomics and the same way that the war on drugs destabilized the Black community. All of this is just the new phases in the same linchpin. The new phases in the same agenda.
Right.
Jim Crow didn't work. We fought through Jim Crow. Cool. We're gonna let them think they got something. But guess what? We got something for you. Now we're gonna appeal to that. And this Donald Trump appeals to the unintellectual.
Yes, he does.
He speaks in a way that makes these people comfortable to listen to them. They don't feel angered because they don't understand what's going on. His politics are not politics. It's uneducated rhetoric.
Right.
And that is dangerous because unfortunately, these white people don't understand that the system has failed them too. These poor white folks are no better off than any of us. And they're not educated because they don't get the money or the funding. And guess what? Since they're not educated, this guy appeals to them because now they feel like, oh my gosh, here's something that I do understand. Now I get it. Now I can participate because they're just as disenfranchised as us. And they're using that as a weapon against us. And I will say this, it's not conservatism. This is Christian nationalism. This is fascism. This is what we're going towards. The same thing that they constantly combat in the media, speaking about, well, we don't like these places because they make you be Muslim. They make women do this. They make women do that. And we can't. We're a Christian nation. But they over here stopping women from getting abortions.
Right.
First of all, nobody should speak on anything what a woman does. You mad at them telling women what to do, but you're doing it here.
Absolutely.
Now you're saying that this should be an all Christian country.
Right.
But that's not even what we were founded on. People swear to God that we were founded on as a Christian society. And no, we weren't. It's specifically in the Constitution that should be separate.
Absolutely.
They supposedly came over here to escape religious persecution. But and as a historian, and I'm sure Ryan agrees with me, I argue that this was just all about slavery, and they just didn't want to have to let it go because it was being outlawed over there in Britain and it was about to spill over here, and that's what America's about. But that's neither here nor there. But this is detrimental, and this is happening. It's not whether or not it will happen. It's happening already.
Right
and if
now.
he comes into office, it will happen on a much larger scale.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that being said, guys, we brought up the Heritage Foundation, who is behind this Project 2025, right? As I noted, there's over 100 different organizations, politicians, and the like that are supporting this initiative. And if you will, I want to go into what the Heritage Foundation is. I learned a little bit about it, like I said, from watching a few news reports about it. And finally, I went onto the website itself. And I want to start with this slide here. We went to heritage.org. And when I clicked on the About, went to the mission page, and it says here, About Heritage Mission. Every day, the Heritage Foundation is building in America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. Heritage's mission is to formulate and promote public policies based on the principles of free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. Now, more than ever, as they write, the American people need a champion to preserve the great American experiment in anything good and just that it represents. That's why the Heritage Foundation exists. We champion policy solutions that benefit all Americans. But Heritage is also much more than a think tank. Every day, Heritage works in our nation's capital to build an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. But unlike so many other organizations in Washington, D.C., the Heritage Foundation's focus isn't on putting more power into the hands of government, it's on returning power to the people. That's why we don't work on behalf of any special interest or political party. Instead, our commitment is to the American people and the more than 10 million members, advocates, and concerned Americans who support us. Heritage's world-renowned experts, deeply experienced in business, government, the military, nonprofits, academia, and communications, spend each day developing innovative solutions to the issues America faces, from empowering parents in education, reversing growing spending and inflation, and protecting the unborn, to securing America's borders, countering the threat of communist China, the holding big tech accountable, and ensuring free and fair elections. Heritage is on the front lines in the fight to help Americans thrive. Our team then takes those solutions directly to decision makers and government to turn ideas into action. Heritage has been consistently ranked the #1 think tank in the world for it. But we don't stop there. We also communicate to citizens how government can work more effectively for all Americans through traditional media, social media platforms, and Heritage's in-house outlet for news and commentary, the Daily Signal. Engage with the international community to promote freedom, peace, and trade that benefits America and the world. Train the leaders of tomorrow who will lead America to a brighter future, and help unite the conservatives around principles and ideas that strengthen our cause and the nation. Now, in this graph right here, in this chart right here, we have thousands of meetings, they say, with Congress and administration officials every year. Over 400 meetings with congressional staff, 120 plus meetings with members of Congress, 47 candidate briefings, 168 working group events on Capitol Hill, 80 heritage alumni serving on Capitol Hill, and 30 congressional testimonies. Recognizing that elected leaders are more responsive to adopting policy solutions when they know the American people already support them, Heritage created Heritage Action for America. Heritage Action works with lawmakers to implement Heritage Foundation solutions, while it also organizes nearly 20,000 Sentinel activists and more than 2 million local grassroots activists around the nation to push for their adoption. Heritage Action ensures that citizens are speaking up and their elected officials hear their voices. Heritage doesn't do all of this alone, however. It's only thanks to our 500,000 members that we have the ability to engage on all of these fronts in the fight to save America. In this fight, our members are truly our partners. That's why we invite you to stand with us, because there's too much at stake to stand on the sidelines. It's only with your help that we can ensure America remains a land of flourishing opportunity and home of the freest, most prosperous people the world has ever known. And there we have it, gentlemen. Tommy, what are your thoughts about what I just read?
You know, it's really, I don't know how y'all feel, but it's very hard to just even find where to start. But I will tell you this. I spoke, you know, Ryan brought up Reagan, because really all of this kind of starts with him. It starts before him, but it really, this new way of pushing Jim Crow through legislation starts with him. They found out that we got smart and we were going to use intellect and our voices and our numbers to avoid this, and we understood that the legislative process was going to help us. That's how this country was built. A lot of these policies, like the war on drugs, I know, like No Child Left Behind, a lot of this stuff, and I know a lot of people are for it, but I think the No Child Left Behind was very detrimental, especially to our children. Even the Clintons, they all worked hand in hand with a group called ALEC. ALEC is the
Yes.
American Legislative Exchange Council. Okay,
Mhm.
ALEC has their hands all over this. The Heritage Project, the Project 2025. All those meetings that you saw on those graphs, that's ALEC.
Okay.
They specifically write legislation. They're just
Mhm.
templates that these people can
Right.
just insert their names in, and they disseminate this. And much of the legislation that we're seeing now that's being passed, that's ALEC. They're
Yes.
talking that you saw, they specifically mentioned the education system. You saw I brought up abortion, and they're talking about people that they're mad at these Islamic countries and other countries that aren't us controlling what their women do, and then backhandedly doing the same thing. And they mentioned it in that statement that you just read
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
They try to put it lightly,
Oh yeah.
that protecting our unborn children, or however, whatever nonsense they said. But also they mentioned about education. And the main thing I told you guys, this is just that the prison industrial system is not working any longer because people are hip to it. People are outraged by it. And now it's a
Mhm.
problem, especially with the heroin epidemic and the opioid epidemic that's going on around. It's
Mhm.
affecting white communities, rich white communities. And now guess who's stuck in that prison industrial complex?
Mhm.
Now it's white people. And God forbid that God-fearing white people are stuck in those prisons, right? So now guess what they're targeting? They're going to put people on community supervision, and they're not going to stop there. Now they want to privatize education.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You and I, Mr. Clay, we spoke about this prior to the show, and I think I've spoke with you, Ryan, about this. And they're trying to push, school choice,
School choice.
and
Yeah.
they're trying to they're trying to pander to people who love God. They're trying to pander to people who who have their own values and morals, and that's great.
Right.
Again, I know I brought up abortion multiple times, and I'm a feminist advocate. While I may not agree with that, it is not my choice or my decision. And it's the same way for what people's children are going to learn or anything like that. What I feel
Mhm.
as a history educator, people need the facts. That is all. People need the facts, the real facts, whether they're uncomfortable or not. They need those facts so that they can think critically, and we don't run into issues like this. The whole reason that these things are even able to come up to fruition is because of the education system. And now they're attacking that. They want to privatize it. They're saying,
Mhm.
oh, well, you're going to have a choice where your tax dollars go. Okay, cool. So now all this money gets to go to these Christian places. And what happens when these Christian places, and we want to choose to send our kids to a Christian institution, but guess what? That institution is private.
Yeah.
So they don't have to accept everybody
They
like a
don't have
public
to.
institution.
Right.
They could say no to me. They could say no to my children. They could say no to anybody's children. They don't even have to give a reason. They don't have to have criteria. Because why? They're a private institution. So what happens with that? Now we have segregation again. Now it's
Mhm.
separate but equal. But then we're gonna go into, well, now everybody wants to go to these private. And what do you think they're gonna divert funds to? They're gonna start diverting funds to these private schools because they're able to be as selective as they want to be. And where are they gonna take that funding from?
Yep.
The public education, the only place that we're gonna have left to go. And then where are we at? Now we're back at separate but unequal. We will not have the same resources. Not that we do now, but we won't have the same resources. So that's
Far
stripping
fewer.
equality from the education system,
Absolutely.
right? That's that school voucher program. ALEC had their hands on that. Okay, they have their hands on what else? They have their hands on affirmative action. You spoke to me about this. They're trying to get rid of affirmative action in the workplace, in schools, and everything, which I don't think that it's as helpful as we thought it would be. I think that it's been used as just we need to get a token and throw them in there so people stop looking at us, and we're still going to be we're not going to be equitable. We're not going to have representation for them. We're just going to have enough to have that black face or that brown face show so people don't start asking us questions. That's all that became. But now they want to be more outright about it, and they want to remove that. And guess who is pushing the legislation for that? Guess who wrote the legislation for that? ALEC. We have testing, all these testing. If you live in Texas, you've heard of when I went to school, it was the TOS test. Then it turns into the TAKS test. Now it's the STAR test. My children are taking it as we speak. I'm a teacher. My students are taking it. My own children, I have 3 in school. They're taking it right now. This test is not equitous. It's not designed in a way that it's going to be easy for black and brown people to take it. It's designed and worded in a way that it's just not going to be catering to those communities, which is fine. We still have great test taking students, and our children are very intelligent and they pass it every day. But the fact of the matter is the way that it's designed is to make sure that they don't get through the cracks. Gotcha. And when they don't do well due to their circumstances at home, maybe they don't have food. So guess what? They don't have food. They can't test take correctly. Things like that are not taken into consideration. These kids fail. And what happens? Now we're back into that No Child Left Behind loop. They're in summer school. They're looked at as less than. They're looked at as a problem child. Now that leads to, oh, well, they have disciplinary issues because they don't listen. They can't pay attention in class. But this kid can't pay attention the whole time because his stomach is touching his back because he does not have the resources at home. And nobody cares to think if he has the resources at home. But they still want to implement this high stakes testing. And guess who's pushing the legislation for that? ALEC. It takes one man rules for the education. Okay. One man. He is the commissioner of education. Okay. Do you know that we don't that man? He's appointed by one person, the governor of Texas. Who's the governor of Texas? Mr. Conservative Greg Abbott, who is a known supporter and I believe actor in ALEC.
Oh yeah.
And they want to oppose teachers unions. So now that teachers are overworked, underpaid, students now are more audacious than ever, spitting in people's faces, hitting you, being aggressive. That's the truth of the matter in the school system. But who is there to protect the teachers? Because we can't protect ourselves. We're gonna lose our job if we protect ourselves. Right. It's the teachers, but ALEC's pushing legislation to remove teachers unions. Okay. They don't want that. What else? Wow. They even have legislation to affect school discipline. They have legislation to limit ethnic studies. All of this. The only time you see ethnic studies, at least I know in the state of Texas, I don't know about anywhere else, ethnic studies you see in college, and they are an elective, not a requirement.
Well, you know, here in Illinois, we do get chance to have ethnic studies, black history studies in public schools. And that's unfortunately, we don't have the same type of resistance to it here. But, you know, on to Ryan, you hold a very intimate position as far as the Heritage Foundation goes.
Used to.
If you will, sir, please share with the public a little bit about what you know about the Heritage Foundation, some of the your history in association with it.
Well, a long time ago, when I was lost in my trespasses and sins, I was a black conservative. I was on the advisory panel for a group called Project 21, which was a black conservative think tank that worked hand in hand with the Heritage Foundation. So just like the forum that we're in now, if somebody was talking pro affirmative action, they would call me and get me on the air to present the anti or the opposite viewpoint of affirmative action. Okay. And they told me exactly how to do it. You know, talk over them, talk loud, don't give them a chance to speak, wait for them to finish talking, and then don't listen to what they're saying. Just make sure you get your point across. Right. And I was coached by these people. So I'm talking of somebody that was on the inside looking out and saying, man, this is amazing. But you know, I had my epiphany in 2008 when President Obama was elected, and I saw the people that were lining up against him. And what all of those people had in common is that they were interested in one thing: my destruction and the destruction of people that look like me. So at that point, I said, you know what? I'm out. I can't do this anymore. So Matami touched upon ALEC, like you said, they produce a template and they send that template legislation to all of the legislators in a particular state. And they just cross out Florida and put in Arkansas, or they'll cross out Arkansas and put in Georgia. Okay. It's just legislators are no longer writing legislation. They're getting the Cliff Notes version, and it's being mass produced and put into into the atmosphere, and they just basically copy off each other's paper. I know when I was in school, every now and then I would copy off of somebody else's paper if I thought he was getting an A. I don't know about you guys, but
it was crazy. You mentioned copying off of somebody's paper. Sometimes these legislators don't even take the ALEC letterhead off of these papers, so they forget to change the names on the papers. Oh, wow. Exactly. They even.
That's
but
wild.
these the ALECs and the Heritage Foundation, these people are what we call the educated Ku Klux Klan. They got their degrees and they've served in the military. They've served and, they were former elected officials, former cabinet members. And then you got the uneducated Ku Klux Klan, Joe Sixpack, who's got maybe one tooth in his mouth, wearing coveralls with Confederate flags all over his pickup truck and a gun rack. Right. Those are the foot soldiers. Yeah. Okay. So we got these two forces. Fortunately, 95% of the people that are going to vote for this fool in November probably can't even put two sentences together. They can't even spell CRT if you spotted them the C and the T. Okay. They don't know what it means. They're ignorant. Yeah. They're clueless. But and you could crush them intellectually in any kind of a discussion. I don't even talk to these people because they always bring a knife to a gunfight. Because intellectually speaking, they're all lazy slobs. Haven't read a book since they had to read a book, probably in junior high school. Yeah. They're totally uneducated. But you see, the scary part about it is that the people that in the Heritage Foundation and ALEC, these people are educated. They know exactly how to manipulate the electorate. And they're very dangerous people. And, if I'm president, I'll write a blueprint to eliminate the Heritage Foundation and wipe them off the face of the earth. And said, no, we're not having this. Now, how you like that? You want to write blueprints and white papers about what you're going to do to us, or we're going to write one about what we're going to do to you. Which brings me to which is a good question. What are the Democrats doing? Where's their playbook?
Exactly.
Exactly.
That is a question.
Where's the playbook to counter some of this garbage? I've seen. Remember the contract with America?
Yeah. I
think that was the 1995 when the Republicans took over the legislature. Mm-hmm. Contract with America, Newt Gingrich, blah blah blah. Yep. Where's the playbook for the other side? I haven't seen it. I haven't heard about it.
Absolutely.
Maybe you guys have. Maybe.
I ain't seen it. I had the same question, Ryan. Tommy, maybe you could chime in about this. I always wondered, okay, with so many of our people voting overwhelmingly for the Democrat Party, we are the voter base for them. They cannot win federal elections without us. Why do you guys think the Democrats don't have a counter to this type of project?
Bipartisanism is a lie. Bipartisanism is a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie that the media likes to just dangle in our face to make us feel like that we do not have representation in the government. We don't. It is all one party. Maybe some white man just, I want my money to come from over here and I want my money to come from over here, but they're all the same people. They don't care about us. And when I say us, I mean the people that nonsense biography or mission statement that you just read said. Those people that they said they care about, they don't. They are
Mhm.
creating
Yeah.
legislation to line their pockets. They are creating legislation to support their agendas. And it all goes back to the money. This is one reason why I try to stay away from partisan politics. I try to stay away from, well, you Republicans, well, you MAGA, well, you Dems, you libtards, whatever, all that stuff. That's like, it's the dumbest thing. First of all, it's ignorant. It sounds stupid. It sounds
Mhm.
stupid.
Mhm.
It's dumb. But two, like, it doesn't matter. We there in El Paso, there's a Instagram, and it's extremely popular, and it's called FitFam. The majority of the entire population of the city of El Paso watches it. And
Okay.
anytime anything happens, border wise, honestly, anytime anything happens that they report on, because they're pretty much the definitive news source around here. You get the
Okay.
news from them before you get it from the real news, okay?
Okay.
But
Okay.
anytime you scroll up on those comments, well, that's what happens when you get the Democrats. Well, ask Daddy Biden why gas prices are at $8 right now. Well, if we didn't have, like, but what are you talking right now? Texas is conservative
That's
Republican.
right.
How
That's
can
right.
you still blame it on Democrats? Like, what are you talking about? One, but two, partisan politics has nothing to do with it.
Hmm.
Nothing to do with it. How many times have we seen deadlocks in Congress about issues that are really going to make a difference? But it took them hours to decide to ban TikTok. That's the thing that they agreed on. That's what you agreed to ban. That's what
Yeah.
y'all were like, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
come
Yeah, they were
together,
quick with it.
brothers.
They
Like,
were
what
quick with it.
do you mean? But you know why? Because just like FitFam, it is disseminating truthful information from multiple points of view. And
Mhm.
that is what they don't want. So when you
Right.
say, where is this action plan? There's not one, because they got the same action plan.
Same one.
You already read it. We just read it right now. That's the plan. The
Mhm.
Democrats' plan, that's the
That's the
plan.
plan. Okay.
Yes, there's all this fear mongering about, we're gonna have a Donald Trump back in there, but I guarantee you that it's going to happen if we get one of these main front runners from the Democratic Party.
I hear you. Ryan, what about you, my man? How do you look at it? Why don't you believe the Democrats have their own version of a Project 2025 to counter what we see?
Because like Tommy was alluding to, they take our vote for granted. It's like they already know who we're going to vote for. And their plan is to basically say Trump bad, Biden good, the end.
Yeah.
We don't need a 920-page manifesto. They just take it for granted. They just know. I mean, but things have a way of happening. We didn't think Trump was going to win in 2016, did we? But he did. So it just boggles the mind. And like Tommy said, these parties exist to benefit corporate America. They're just going to line their pockets. All this 920-page policy from the Project 2025, it's all about enriching their lives and the lives that are of the people that are close to them. That's why they call them parties, because it's one big party. But guess who's not invited to the party? You and I.
Exactly.
That's why they're parties. And I believe that these parties have done irreparable harm to our cause since the beginning. Absolutely. It was the Democrats and the Republicans who compromised in 1877 that brought an end to Reconstruction, that the withdrawal of Union troops from the former Confederacy, which eventually ushered in Plessy versus Ferguson, which made separate but equal constitutional. Then you had the Black Codes, you had Jim Crow, while these racist Dixiecrats just unleashed terror on our people, and Republicans did nothing. Then all of a sudden they switched sides like professional wrestling.
Right.
We got the same filthy people on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
I say get rid of the system, destroy it, burn it to the ground, and rebuild it, and make sure that the system that we build includes everyone, especially people that look like you and I. The left-right paradigm is destroying this so-called republic, and it must be destroyed. immediately.
Absolutely.
And how do we destroy it? That's for somebody else to figure out. I just know I got to vote. That's all I got to do.
There you
Vote
go.
for the lesser of two evils, but the lesser of two evils is still evil.
It's
You know,
Mhm.
where are all the young people that are so full of energy? Why didn't they challenge Biden for the Democratic nomination? Now we have a young governor.
Ooh,
Yeah,
We have a young
I got an
governor in the
answer
state
for
of
that.
Maryland,
I do too.
Wes Moore.
Yeah.
He's young. He's full of energy. He's attractive. He's got a beautiful family. He's like Obama 2.0. He would win hands down. Where are all these young people and I could say in both parties?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because where are they, Tommy? You said you have an answer. I can't wait to hear it.
You want to know?
Hit
It
'em up,
goes
Tommy.
back. It goes back to those corporations. Because
Mhm.
where's the money?
Right.
They don't want to fund the young person. Why?
No, they don't.
Because we know what's going on.
Mhm.
You know what's up.
Yeah. We already peeped game. So they can't control us. That's the thing. Again, that goes back to eliminating the TikToks of the world. They're just
Right.
going to try to discredit everything that we have to say. That's why they take
Mhm.
words that my young generation, like woke, created, and they
Right.
weaponize
Right.
them and they turn them into racist dog whistles.
Right.
What do you mean?
Right.
Oh, wokeness. I got into it with somebody just a little bit ago on Instagram, on FitFam, in the comments, talking about wokeness is a disease. And it was a Mexican young man saying this. Like, and I said, bro, no, self-hatred and bigotry is a disease that
That's right.
you
Right.
obviously have. How can you say,
Mhm.
like, bro, no matter how much you check that white box, you're not white.
Mhm.
No.
And they don't care about you. They don't. The young people, we right here. I'm here. If I could
Mhm.
run, if I can get the funding, if I can get I would do it now.
There you go.
I would do it now. I look even
Mhm.
older than I already do at 35 years old. But hey, you know what? It's worth it because we need that. You're absolutely right. We need the young voices. It's time to stop having these lifetime appointments and these geriatric people running in office. Do you know how old the founding fathers were when they wrote the Declaration of Independence? They were in their 20s.
Mhm.
Wasn't nobody over 30.
Them
And all
powder
of a
puff
sudden,
wigs made them look like they was older. Though.
Right.
yeah, but that's not the truth.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
honestly, I low-key don't even believe the powder puff wig thing though.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
just like they make the civil rights look, they put all those pictures in black and white in the textbooks. They put all those pictures in black and white in the media to make you feel like that was a long time
So
ago.
long
My
ago,
boy, it's
man.
people still
Right.
alive that were in it.
That's right.
Right.
But they want
Right.
you to think
Folks.
it was.
Yeah.
They want you to think that like this was a long, this like they say history like it was forever ago. No, people are alive that lived through it.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And that's what
Yeah.
they do. It's all about creating this imagery to make you feel disconnected. That's what they want to
Mhm.
do. And that's what this is. They want to keep these old people because they're disconnected from what the world really is and what it really wants. Because as bad as it seems, the majority of people are on our side. They feel the way we
Oh,
feel.
I
But
agree.
they also
They are.
feel so disenfranchised and helpless because the way the
Mhm.
system is set up is our voices
Mhm.
are not amplified. They are stifled.
Right.
And that's why. That's where the young people
Mhm.
are. We're here. But who's going to fund us? Who's
Absolutely.
going to push us up? Who is going to pour into our cups to make sure that we can help lead this country? Because I believe we can do it. I believe my generation and even people younger than myself can do it. I'm
Mhm.
willing to. I'll step up.
Mhm.
But where's the support though?
Absolutely.
Who's going to support us?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because
I
even
agree with
people in our own communities, do you feel like they probably going to be like, man,
you. Yeah.
tell that little boy to sit down.
Right. Right.
Right.
What
Exactly.
what does he know?
Right. Gaining support from our
Yeah.
own people is probably the biggest hurdle we'll have to cross.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying, when running for political office. So I agree with you on that. I agree with you.
Mhm.
I want to get to the last section of tonight's show, and I wanted to kind of bring it home. With both of you in Texas, I wanted to give an example, real time example of how Project 25 is being implemented specifically in your state. And I wanted to start that off with this article that I came across from the New York Times.
Mhm.
Can you guys see that there?
Yes.
All right. All right, with this article here from the New York Times, federal judge rules minority business agency must serve white people as well. The ruling by a judge in Texas was the latest in a string of court decisions that have eroded and struck down federal affirmative action mandates in a variety of arenas. This article by Michael Wines and Colby Edmonds, dated March 6, 2024. The Minority Business Development Agency, a Commerce Department program created during the Nixon administration to help minority-owned businesses, discriminates against white people and must offer its services to people of all races and ethnic groups, a federal judge in Texas ruled on Wednesday. The judge, Mark T. Pittman of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, sided with two of the three white business owners who sued the agency after they were told its assistance was limited to members of, quote, disadvantaged minority groups. The third was found to not have standing. The presumption that the business owners were not disadvantaged violated the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection under the law, wrote Judge Pittman, who was named to the federal bench by President Donald J. Trump. Judge Pittman permanently barred the agency from serving only members of minority groups. If courts mean what they say when they ascribe supreme importance to constitutional rights, the federal government may not violate such rights with impunity, he wrote. Time's up. The ruling was the latest in a string of court decisions that have eroded or struck down federal affirmative action mandates in a variety of arenas. The most prominent example was a Supreme Court ruling last June that upended race-conscious college admissions programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. The three plaintiffs who sued the Commerce Agency based their legal argument on that ruling, and Judge Pittman referred to it 32 times in his opinion. The Department of Justice, which represented the agency in the suit, declined to comment on the ruling. Mark H. Morial, the president and chief executive officer of the National Urban League, called for an immediate appeal. The decision is wrong and stands for a narrow, retrogressive view of the Constitution, he said. He added that the agency's work to concentrate on the growth of businesses that still remain substantially locked out of the mainstream of the American economy is necessary and needed. But the principal lawyer representing the plaintiffs, Dan Lennington of the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, a conservative public interest law firm, said the ruling should also be applied to other race-conscious practices like the awarding of grants, workplace promotions, and race-based scholarships in higher education. We hope this is a precedent to eliminate all of that, Mr. Lennington said. Automatically labeling a group of people as disadvantaged is ridiculous, he said, citing Judge Pittman's reasoning that Oprah Winfrey would qualify as disadvantaged under the Commerce Agency's rule. With a $550 million annual budget, the Minority Business Development Agency funds privately operated business centers in 33 states and Puerto Rico that help companies secure financial aid and strategic advice. The case involved three small businesses: a Texas chain of sexual wellness centers, a Florida contractor, and a Wisconsin architect, whose owners, all of them white, separately sought help from the agency's business centers. The Texas and Florida business owners were told that they could not apply for help because the center's services were available only to disadvantaged individuals. The Wisconsin business owner abandoned plans to seek help after discovering on the agency's website that he too was ineligible because of his race. The law governing the agency's operations defines disadvantaged people as members of specific minority groups, including African Americans, Hispanic persons, and Native Americans, as well as anyone else whose business operations are hampered by prejudice against the group. Disadvantaged people must own more than half of a business to qualify. The white business owners argued in their lawsuit that basing eligibility for the agency's help on an applicant's race or ethnicity was unconstitutional. In his opinion, Judge Pittman allowed that discrimination remains a troubling reality, citing evidence from the case that minority business owners have less access to loans, get less money when they apply, and have to pay more for it. And he noted that decades of legal precedents had, in fact, stated that it was sometimes necessary to take race into account, quote, in order to remedy the effects of prior discrimination. But he said that was at odds with Congress's intent when it drafted the 14th Amendment, citing historical records that said its drafters demanded, quote, the abolition of all distinctions founded on color and race. And to show you guys what is said in the 14th Amendment, and specifically is Section 1 that they are attacking. And it says here in Section 1 that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. This is the section that these white business owners are trying to use to fight those policies that help minorities. There is no escaping this tension, he wrote. Given his drafters' desire to eschew race-based discrimination, even benign discrimination cannot be squared with the Equal Protection Clause. And he said the government had failed to offer specific instances of intentional discrimination that might have justified some exception to that tenet. Judge Pittman, who was confirmed to the federal bench in 2019, had previously been appointed to the state appeals court posed by Governor Greg Abbott, Republican of Texas. His most notable federal decisions in 2022 outlawed President Biden's student loan forgiveness program and overturned a Texas law that had barred people aged 18 to 20 from carrying concealed handguns. Although the ruling could dilute the agency's ability to assist minority-owned businesses, the hurdles they face aren't going away, said Sarah Hinger, a senior staff attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union Racial Justice Program. The circumstances facing minority business owners don't change regardless of what happened in this court case, she said. They continue to face a legacy of discrimination and disadvantage. Gentlemen, with that you heard there, the judge's ruling, how do you feel about that? Ryan, let me start with you. What do you feel about the judge's ruling?
Well, the judge was flat out wrong. Okay. I didn't see in that, when you read the 14th Amendment, was there any reference to race or color?
Nope.
You know, equal protection under the law, what that means is that, to me, that means that a policeman can't beat your brains out when he pulls you over for a seatbelt violation. How does that apply to minority set-asides for people who have been historically marginalized and disadvantaged? Exactly. What would possess three white business owners to go to the Minority Business Council seeking assistance when there's a whole universe of assistance for white folks out there? That's right. I think those three were sent in there to test as a plan to upset the apple cart and to bring that case to this Trump-appointed bastard so he could overturn it. I believe that is what they're doing. That is the strategy. the person that upended the apple cart in the Supreme Court case involving admissions in colleges, those people were Asian.
Yep. they
But
sure
you know,
were.
the Klan don't lynch Asians. You know, just tell them you're Asian, so they'll leave you alone. They won't bother you. But yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree with with the judge's ruling. He's an Abbott appointee. He's a Trump appointee. Hey, there you go. What else would you expect from a Trump appointee?
Exactly.
Okay, he's a young man. I bet you that's a lifetime appointment too. Once again, elections have consequences.
Yes, they do.
If you had voted for Hillary, we would not have had Trump. No Trump, no Pittman, no ruling.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It has a trickle-down effect, which is why President Biden is packing these courts with all these highly qualified Black female judges, lifetime appointments. So we are. That's the good fruit. When you elect a fool like Trump, you get rotten fruit. Yeah. Half of these judges probably aren't even qualified, especially the judges that sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah. So that's how I feel about it, and it's a shame. So what we need to do to counter that is that we need to have private sources of money set aside and do it quietly, do it under the radar. Okay. Just like the Underground Railroad, we're gonna have to take all of these entities and maybe even park them offshore, outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. So that way, people are going to get the help that they need, and not one racist cracker can stop it.
I heard that.
That's what I would do. Just privatize all of it. Get it out of the purview of the United States, outside of the Constitution. That way, we can give money to whoever we want to give money to. You know, privatize all the state-run HBCUs, put them under an offshore trust. So that way we can tell anybody, no, you're not coming to our school. And you can't you can't run to any cracker judge to try to overturn it. Because guess what? We operate outside of the United States. Okay, the charter is offshore in a jurisdiction does not have reciprocity with the United States government. So run and tell that. And go to your historically white schools and leave us the hell alone.
Heard that, man. I heard that. Well, Tommy, what are your thoughts about what I just read? I know you're familiar with some of this, man. Lay it on us, man. Lay it on us.
It's just, I just find it laughable that they completely disregarded context of the 14th Amendment.
Yes,
they did.
Like if you don't say anything, if you're I'm not a lawyer, but even if I wasn't educated, you know that the 14th Amendment had to do with the abolishment of slavery. 13, 14, 15, all of those amendments right there, they all are corollary. You know that.
That's right. Everybody knows slavery, no amendments. Exactly.
Right. Everybody knows that. So disregard any other argument. The context of the 14th Amendment specifically says that amendment was made for us. That was made to protect us. That amendment was not even needed, but white people already had all that.
That's right.
They already had that. Why they didn't need something that was explanatory. They didn't need empirical written evidence that they had those rights. They already had them. It's ridiculous and disgusting that they would try to twist that and out of context to benefit them. And I think you are absolutely right, Ryan. Absolutely right. They pulled a page out of the civil rights book. Yes, they pulled a page out of the civil rights book and they planted that. They planted a Rosa Parks of their own.
Right.
They planted a Plessy of their own. Yeah. They did that. That's what they did. There's no other way. There's no way. Like you said, why? I know it's the internet. You had to Google that, see what it was, and then go apply for benefits. So the moment that you clicked on that link, you saw that it was a minority-based resource. The audacity of you to try to even apply for it is wild to me. And then for you to be like, but they discriminated. I'm going to say it, and this might be
Knock it out, boy.
something that you cannot discriminate against white people. You
I
can't.
don't see how.
What do you
I
mean?
don't see how.
No,
There's no way.
impossible.
This entire system,
impossible.
this entire country is dedicated to supporting them,
Yeah.
not us.
Right.
So it's just what set everything aside. Context is key. I don't care what you say. I can say I hate somebody, and you be like,
Right.
"Well, what's wrong with him?" Tommy's
Right,
just a hater. He just hate everybody. Until you realize, oh, fam punched my mom in the face at my wedding. Then obviously, like, context matters.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the context of the 14th Amendment was based out of the abolishment of slavery. Period. Point blank. It
Right.
was made to give us rights. It was made to ensure that we had the same rights that white people have been enjoying for their whole lives. So
Right.
for them to be like, no, that's unconstitutional, like, no, it's not. It actually, it's right in stride with the exact point of that amendment in the Constitution. Like, it's really weird that you would say otherwise. And to be a judge and try to say that, that's wild.
Right.
And while affirmative action, I will admit that it may be flawed, it is necessary. While these resources are necessary, and not to rain on your parade, Ryan, but
Mhm.
as much as I would love to put all that stuff offshore and I would love to privatize all that, we got Venezuelans at our border right now. Why do we got Venezuelans at our border right now? Because the government had an agenda and they ruined their
Right.
government. So what makes you
Exactly.
think that wherever we put our stuff, when we try to find this workaround, that they ain't gonna find a reason to go into that place and ransack it and make it theirs? And then guess what? We right back under the thumb. The
We're
issue
going
is
to Wakanda. You saw what them white folks happened in Wakanda. They
What?
got dealt with.
Yeah.
With-
that's
I
really
wish-
what we need. Honestly, it's militant. We need a
Yes.
militant overthrow of the corporations. The corporations have
Absolutely.
too much say now. The Apples and the
Right.
Teslas and all of that, because all of those are the people who go back and they fund Alec.
Right.
These prisons, they
Right.
go fund Alec. Everything, even now the school systems, they go fund Alec.
Mhm.
These charter schools, all of this stuff, they're all funding these people who are making the legislation that is being handed to these people that we're voting in office.
Mhm.
Because yes, it
Mhm.
matters if we go and we vote for that lesser evil, but regardless of that, whoever we vote for is still being spoon-fed by groups like Alec.
Right.
So
Right.
the only way that we really dismantle the system is to follow the money.
gotta
Follow
cut off the
the money.
head.
That's why they so
Yeah.
that's why they're so scared of socialism and communism, because it
Oh, God.
eradicates that power that they have.
Exactly.
That's why they're afraid of that. That's why they don't want universal health care. Like, oh, dang, they could be just as healthy as us. Nuh-uh.
No,
You mean
no,
that means
no.
I'm not better than them? They got health care too? Nuh-uh.
Right.
Oh, they got benefits. Now they can get loans and stuff too? Nuh-uh. That's unconstitutional.
Right.
The-
I'm the
the
one who's supposed to get the
European
loans.
The European American will cut his own throat if somebody that looked like me and you had a chance at getting the same thing that they have.
Absolutely.
If breathing, if I tell you, if you know, if we didn't need oxygen to breathe, they would find a way. They would find a way.
Boy,
Unfortunately, you're right.
not my
They
air.
would find a way.
Not
I mean,
my
They would
air.
find a way.
You know,
Just look at
gentlemen,
it.
You know,
We voted Obama in there, and they put Trump.
Yeah, that was
Anything
the
to
back,
not have a
that
black
was the
man
white
as president.
lash. That was the white lash.
Come on.
As a result,
white
of
lash. That's right.
Absolutely.
That was that white lash. Exactly. Exactly what it was.
Gentlemen, I want to tell you, man. We do have a lot of work to do as a people. We have a lot
We do.
more educating ourselves about what's really going on around us, what's really happening to us. And tonight, thought it was a pretty good step in that direction. I want to thank the two of you for being aboard tonight and sharing so much with the public about what you guys know about Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. And we want to keep these discussions and these conversations going. So, ladies and gentlemen, please believe we're going to have much more of these discussions about the direction our people should be going. And with that being said, I do want to chime out and enjoy the rest of your evening. Gentlemen, please stay on with me. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
is a Trump appointee. Hey, there you go.
Right.
What else would you expect from a Trump appointee?
Exactly.
Okay, he's a young man. I bet you that's a lifetime appointment too.
Hmm.
Once again, elections have consequences.
Yes, they do.
If you had voted for Hillary, we would not have had Trump. No Pittman, no ruling.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It has a trickle-down effect, which is why President Biden is packing these courts with all these highly qualified Black female